Survival stories are timeless, from Robinson Crusoe to Poon Lim, but few rival the ordeal of the Essex, a whaling ship sunk in 1820. Although lesser known, this tragedy inspired Herman Melville's Moby Dick, written 31 years later. It is a story of bravery, death, and cannibalism, with few survivors and lots of struggle. Yet nowadays, it is hardly known. So let's tell you about the ship and its crew.
To understand the Essex fate, it's essential to consider the 1800s economy. Before electricity, oil lamps, fueled by whale blubber, drove a booming whaling industry. In 1809, 72 British whaling ships operated in the Southern Ocean alone. Built in 1799, the Essex, though small, had completed six successful voyages with its 21-man crew and five whaleboats. In August 1819, under Captain George Powell Jr., the Essex departed Nantucket for a 2.5 year voyage.
The captain, George Pollard Jr., had served on the ship on earlier voyages and was considered an experienced and smart captain. His first mate, Owen Chase, also had prior experience on the Essex, along with second mate Matthew Joy. Three boatsters were in charge of the whaleboats and harpooning the whales, and there was also a cabin boy and a steward. 13 other sailors were also part of the crew. It is important to note that one of these sailors was named Owen Coffin. Coffin's cousin was Captain Pollard, and Pollard had promised to protect Owen.
The planned whale hunting area was off the west coast of South America, where most whalers did their business. At first, the Essex voyage went fairly smoothly. After stocking up at several Caribbean islands, the ships crossed Cape Horn 3 months into their voyage and killed their first whale not long after.
5 months into the voyage, in January of 1820, the Essex had produced 450 barrels of oil, but more whales were to be hunted. In May, the Essex met up with another ship by the name of the Aurora. The Aurora's captain told of a better hunting ground, 2,000 miles off the coast of Peru. Pollard quickly stopped at port before heading to the new location.
It is important to note that the Essex stopped at the Galapagos Islands during their trip to the new hunting grounds, where 300 native tortoises were captured and stored on board the Essex. These tortoises were used as food and could be stacked vertically for easy storage. Before leaving the islands, a crew member, as a prank, set one of the islands on fire. It quickly spread, burning the entire island, and life has not existed since.
The Essex reached the new hunting grounds in November of 1820. On November 20th, the whaleboats were sent out to hunt some sighted whales, leaving only 2 men on board to sail the ship. Whales are usually peaceful creatures, but there was one whale that day that must have seen the Essex as a mating rival, so it rammed the ship's starboard bow. The large whale attacked again, and the Essex was quickly sinking. The men out hunting whales came back just in time to rescue the men on the sinking ship. In just minutes, the Essex was gone.
For the first 2 days, the debris of the Essex was searched and scrummaged. Planks were nailed to the whaleboats to make the walls higher, small masts and sails were also built for the whaleboats to make sailing easier. 600 pounds of bread, 6 tortoises, and 200 gallons of water were rescued and split.
The crew argued where they should go. The Essex sank 2,000 miles from the Peruvian coast, and the closest islands were the Marquise Islands, 1,200 miles away. Captain Pollard had heard that the native people of the Marquise Islands were cannibals, and so he opted to head towards the Society Islands, where there were 800 miles further. Joy and Chase thought these islands also had cannibal residents, so they figured it was better to head to the coast, where other whaling ships would likely find them. This was eventually agreed upon, and the crew prepared themselves for the long journey.
Finally, on the third day, the whaleboats set off, and it was soon clear that the crew was in for a long haul. The whaleboats were never made for ocean journeys, and the rough improvements were hardly enough. The first whaleboat was under the command of Poland, while Jason Choi captained the other two.
Food was also hardly sufficient, with meals being rationed from the very beginning. The crew ate the bread that was waterlogged, and already, by day 10, the tortoises were eaten. The men were quickly deteriorating. Thirst and hunger were their biggest problems.
On day 30, an island was spotted in the distance. After landing, it was discovered to be Henderson Island. The island had limited resources and would not be able to provide all men for long. 6 days later, the boat set off, leaving 3 men behind.
Things would go downhill from then on. On day 51, Joy died, and 2 other sailors died soon after. Out of options, each boat resorted to cannibalism to survive. Not long after the difficult choice, a storm separated the boats, leaving each one on its own to survive.
On day 76, out of options, Pound's boat drew lots of determination who would be sacrificed. Pound's young cousin, Owen Coffin, was chosen killed, a tragic breaking of Pound's promise to protect him. Meanwhile, Chase's crew also resorted to consuming a deceased sailor.
On day 90, Chase's boat was rescued by the whaling ship Indian. Pollard's boat was found 5 days later, its survivors delirious and clinging to human remains. The other boat, originally under the command of Matthew Joy, was lost in a storm and was never seen again. The 3 men left on the island were later rescued, bringing the survival total to 8.
The irony of this thinking is that the islands the men originally wanted to go to, the Marquise and Society Islands, had missions, and the native people did not practice cannibalism. If the men of the Essex had chosen to go there, the terrible death, pain, and cannibalism that the men dreaded would have most likely never happened in the first place. So while the story is a show of how we can endure the impossible, it's also a warning that we can become the very things that we fear in ways we never expect.
Here's it.
This is their original sinking spot. Crew. Green are outlined in who has survived.
This is the beginning set picture. Shows their voyage. And then it shows the initial crew.
And anything we could find about them, including their age and what they did in the ship.
Yep, their role. Thank you.